She gave her husband an elbow poke as they went back to looking out at the water. He was nice. Not all New Yorkers are rude and nasty. Carolee, he was a tourist, just like us. He's probably from Toledo or somewhere. But he smiled when he said it. It was more fun to yank her chain than to admit he was having a pretty good time. I'm gonna ask him. Steve only shook his head as his wife walked over to chat up the picture taker. It was so Carolee. She could, and did, talk to anyone, anywhere about anything. When she came back, she offered Steve a smug smile. He's from Maryland, but, she added with a quick finger jab, he's lived in New York for almost 10 years. He's going over to Staten Island to visit his daughter. She just had a baby, a girl. His wife's been staying with them the past few days to help out, and she's meeting him at the terminal. It's their first grandchild. Did you find out how long he's been married, where and how he met his wife, who he voted for in the last election? She laughed and gave Steve another poke. I'm thirsty. She glanced down at her youngest. You know, me too. Why don't you and I go and get some drinks for everybody? She grabbed his hand and snaked her way through the people crowded on deck. Are you having a good time, Pete? It's pretty neat, but I really want to go see the penguins. Tomorrow, first thing. Can we get a soy dog? Where are you putting them? You had one an hour ago. They smell good. Vacation meant indulgence, she decided. Soy dogs it is. But I have to pee. Okay. As a veteran mother, she'd scoped out the restrooms when they'd boarded the ferry. Now she detoured to steer them toward the nearest facilities. And, of course, since Pete mentioned it, now she had to pee. She pointed toward the men's room. If you get out first, you stand right here. You remember what the ferry staff looks like? The uniforms? If you need help, go right to one of them. Mom, I'm just gonna pee. Well, me too. You wait for me here if you get out first. She watched him go in, knowing full well he rolled his eyes the minute his back was to her. It amused her as she turned toward the women's room and saw the out-of-order sign. Shoot. She weighed her options. Hold it until Pete came out, then hold it some more while they got the dogs and drinks because he'd whine and sulk otherwise, then make her way to the other restroom. Or maybe she could just peek in. Surely not all the stalls were out of order. She only needed one. She pushed open the door, hurried in. She didn't want to leave Pete alone for long. She made the turn at the line of sinks, her mind on getting the provisions and squeezing back to the rail to watch Staten Island come into view. She stopped dead, her limbs frozen in shock. Blood, she thought. Could only think, so much blood. The woman on the floor seemed bathed in it. The man standing over the body held a still dripping knife in one hand and a stunner in the other. I'm sorry, he said. And, to her shocked mind, sounded sincere. Even as Carolee sucked in the air to scream, took the first stumbling step back, he triggered the stunner. Really very sorry, he said, as Carolee fell to the floor. Racing across New York Harbor in a turbo wasn't how Lieutenant Eve Dallas expected to spend her afternoon. She'd played second lead that morning to her partner's primary role in the unfortunate demise of Vicky Trender, the third wife of the unrepentant Alan Trender, who'd smashed her skull with an inferior bottle of California Chardonnay. According to the new widower, it wasn't accurate to say he'd bashed her brains out when she simply hadn't had any brains to begin.